Quiet now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. You're going to dance until your feet fall off. You're not able to stand up any longer. But we're going to have a show.
Welcome to the Pink Door Podcast. So, imagine listing your house on a Thursday afternoon, packing up, going away for the weekend.
Right, just checking out for a few days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the time you've poured your Monday morning coffee, it is sold.
Just like that.
Just like that. In Duxbury, Massachusetts right now, that is not like an agent's fantasy pitch. It is the literal mathematical median.
It's wild.
It really is. And, if you're listening to this and you've lost out on, 3 or 4 Duxbury homes this month.
Gosh, a lot of people have.
Right. Hearing that properties are vanishing in less than a week is probably making your blood boil. But today, our mission is to decode exactly how and why this is happening so you can actually win your next bid.
Yeah, you need the mechanics behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are unpacking a massive stack of fresh April data, pulling directly from MLS PI reports. And for those who don't know, that's the raw, unfiltered database agents use to track every single property movement.
The real stuff.
Yeah, the real stuff.
Yeah.
We're using it to figure out the reality on the ground in zip code 02332.
It is a phenomenal case study in market psychology right now, honestly. To establish our baseline here, Duxbury is operating in a fiercely undeniable seller's market.
Undeniable.
Right. But we can't just, read the raw numbers to you. The numbers are merely the symptoms.
Right, like a thermometer.
Exactly. The underlying behaviors, the panic, the strategy, the financial calculus of buyers and sellers, those are the actual mechanisms driving this.
Yeah.
Because if you only look at the headline statistics, you will be utterly misled about what your purchasing power or, your home at equity actually looks like today.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if homes are vanishing in 6 calendar days, the immediate question is, what is the physical toll on the buyer?
Oh, it's exhausting.
It has to be. We're looking at a metric here called median days in RPR.
Oh.
And for the listener, RPR stands for Realtors Property Resource, which is essentially the industry's master tracker.
Right. It shows how long a home sits before going under contract.
Yeah. And in Duxbury right now, that number is 6 days. That is a 50% drop from just 30 days ago.
We really need to contextualize the sheer velocity of 6 calendar days, because that is not 6 business days.
Wow. Yeah. That includes the weekend.
Exactly. In practical terms, a property hits the MLS on a Thursday morning. The buyer's agent gets the automated alert and immediately calls their client.
Drop everything.
Right. The buyer has to leave work early on Friday for a private showing, or they have to go battle the crowds at a Saturday open house.
Oh, those open houses are intense, right?
They are. And by Sunday night, they're sitting at their kitchen table deciding whether to waive their inspection contingency.
Which is terrifying.
It is. And then offers are due Monday at noon. It's under agreement by Tuesday. There is literally no luxury of driving through the neighborhood at different times of day to check the noise levels.
No time to sleep on it.
No sleeping on the biggest financial decision of your life.
That sounds completely exhausting. It feels less like buying a home and more like trying to grab the last life raft.
That's a good way to put it.
But let me challenge that velocity against another data point here.
Yeah.
Because the inventory metrics seem to contradict that sense of total desperation.
How so?
Well, the months of inventory is currently sitting at 1.94. Now, I know that is incredibly low compared to historical norms.
Very low.
But the data shows it actually ticked up 13.5% from last month. So if inventory went up, why did the days on market get sliced in half? It's like a flash sale at a designer boutique.
Right.
It defies gravity.
It does seem counterintuitive until you look at the mechanism of pent-up demand. What's fascinating here is that, first consider what a balanced market looks like.
Okay.
Economists generally agree that a market where neither buyer nor seller has the upper hand carries about 6 months of inventory.
So 1.94 is...
At 1.94 months, you are in a severe drought. And when you have a drought that severe, a 13% increase in inventory is just a drop in the ocean.
It's to drop, right?
The buyers out there, they're already pre-approved. Their financing is locked. They have probably already lost out on 3 previous houses.
So they're ready to pounce.
Exactly. So when that slight bump in new inventory trickles onto the market, it doesn't relieve the pressure. It just acts as fresh meat for a starving crowd.
Whoa.
They devour it instantly, which mathematically forces the days on market down even as the total number of listings technically rose.
So the slight increase in houses basically just activated all the buyers who were sitting on the sidelines waiting,
Bingo!
which sets us up for a massive puzzle. Because if homes are flying off the market in 6 days and starving buyers are swarming every new listing, the logical law of supply and demand dictates that prices must be exploding across the board.
You would think so.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. The data shows an incredible contradiction.
Yeah, the pricing paradox.
Exactly. The sold-to-list price ratio is 102.3%, meaning, on average, homes are selling for over-asking.
Right.
But the median sold price, like the actual dollar amount changing hands, dropped dramatically, down by almost 25% in a single month to $943,750.
It's a huge drop.
Hold on. You cannot tell me a 25% drop in median price doesn't mean a cooling market. To a buyer, that sounds like a crash. How are people bidding over asking while the median price is plummeting?
This is exactly why consumers get panicked by real estate headlines.
Oh, for sure.
It feels like a mathematical impossibility, but it comes down to the mechanics of what we call the inventory mix.
The inventory mix. Okay, explain that.
Think of it like a high school grading curve. If you look at a classroom's test scores and the class average drops from an A to a C, your first thought is that the students suddenly forgot the material.
Right.
But what if all the A students were out sick on test day?
Oh, I see.
The average plummets not because anyone got less intelligent, but simply because only the C students took the test that week.
Let me make sure I'm following this. You are saying people are not paying a quarter less for the exact same houses in Duxbury.
No, definitely not.
You are saying the types of houses that happened across the closing table this specific April were mostly concentrated in a lower price tier.
That is the exact mechanism at work. Buyers are still aggressively bidding up whatever is available in that more accessible, sub $1 million price point.
So they're fighting over the C students.
Yes. They are fighting tooth and nail over those homes, pushing the sold-to-list ratio over 100%. However, the high-end luxury estates, the ones priced at $2, $3, or $4 million, they simply did not close in April.
They were out sick on test day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because those massive sales were missing from the equation, the mathematical middle was artificially dragged down.
Man, I'm looking at the data to see if that grading curve theory holds up, and it actually does.
The numbers don't lie.
They don't. If we look at the April median estimated property value, which tracks the underlying worth of all homes in the zip code, not just the ones that sold, that number is sitting at $1,206,260.
Right.
And that is up 7% over the last 12 months. So the actual dirt and wood in Duxbury is still appreciating. It's just the specific batch of houses that traded hands this month happened to be on the more affordable end of the spectrum.
And that underlying appreciation, that is the true indicator of market health.
Yeah.
It proves that a single volatile data point, like a monthly median sold price, it can be entirely misleading if you don't understand the mechanics of the transactions behind it.
Right. Well, let's ground this theory in actual closed public records then. Because looking at the concrete reality of what buyers actually paid for tells us exactly what they value right now.
Let's do it.
Take 39 Winslow Road. This is a renovated gambrel cape. And for those unfamiliar with the architecture, a gambrel roof has that classic dual-pitched barn-like slope. Gives you extra headroom on the second floor.
Very quintessential New England coastal charm.
Oh, totally. Great location near the yacht club and the beach. It was listed at $1.095 million. It boasts a new screened-in porch and induction cooktop. Completely move-in ready.
Turnkey.
Boom, gone in 8 days. Sold for $1.11 million. Over asking.
It is the absolute archetype of the 2026 Duxbury frenzy.
Yeah. And then you have 287 Surplus Street, a newly built 4-bedroom colonial right in the heart of town.
Gorgeous property.
High-end finishes, a butler's pantry with a wine bar, the kind of bathrooms you see in architectural magazines. That sold for $2.17 million in 31 days.
So it's moving.
Right, so the turnkey properties and the luxury new builds are moving. But let's look at the outlier. 57 Trout Farm Lane. This is a townhouse.
Ah, the townhouse.
It's originally listed at $820,000. It sat on the market for 104 days and eventually sold for $750,000.
Yeah, that's a long time.
I need to understand this. Why did a property like Trout Farm Lane take over 3 months to sell for under asking, when the median is 6 days and buyers are supposedly starving for anything sub $1 million?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that right there exposes the deep financial calculus of today's buyer.
Okay.
Despite the frenzy, buyers are not acting with blind desperation. They are acting with highly targeted precision. The mechanism separating Winslow Road from Trout Farm Lane comes down to two things: liquid capital and debt-to-income ratios.
Let's look at Winslow Road first.
Right. Winslow is turnkey. In today's economic climate, buyers dealing with elevated interest rates are stretching their monthly budgets to the absolute maximum just to get the loan approved.
Yeah, every penny counts.
Exactly. They do not have $50,000 in liquid cash left over after closing to renovate a kitchen, nor do they have the patience to deal with contractors for 6 months.
Nobody wants to do that right now.
No, they are paying a premium specifically for the privilege of dropping their bags and going straight to the beach.
That makes total sense. The renovation cost is essentially rolled into the mortgage. But what is the specific friction point with the townhouse at Trout Farm Lane? Is it just that people prefer single-family homes?
It is much more mathematical than a simple preference. Trout Farm Lane carries a homeowners association fee of $300 a month.
Okay, the HOA fee.
Right. When a buyer sits down with their lender, that $300 doesn't just disappear. It is factored directly into their debt-to-income ratio, or DTI.
Ah, I see where this is going.
That $300 monthly fee restricts their purchasing power significantly. A buyer who is pre-approved for an $800,000 mortgage on a single-family home might only be approved for a $730,000 mortgage on a property with that HOA fee.
Wow, that's a big drop.
It is. Furthermore, properties with shared walls or association rules naturally appeal to a narrower demographic, often downsizers or empty nesters.
Right, different lifestyle.
And that demographic is rarely forced to buy on a frantic 6-day timeline because they aren't racing the clock to get kids enrolled in a new school district before September.
They can take their time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the buyer pool is smaller, and their purchasing power is hindered by the monthly carrying costs.
That is a phenomenal insight.
Yeah.
They aren't just penalizing the property for being a townhouse. The bank is literally penalizing their borrowing capacity. So the frenzy is highly specific, which brings us to predicting the immediate future. If you are a buyer trying to time your entry into the market, looking at what already closed is like looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, that data is already old news.
We need to look through the windshield at the current active and pending listings.
The pending data is the closest thing we have to a crystal ball. It represents the contracts that were signed yesterday and are waiting to close tomorrow.
And the windshield is showing a massive change in the weather. The median list price for pending listings, the home is currently under agreement, just spiked 37.5% month over month to $1,237,000.
There's that jump.
Right. So that sub-$1 million wave we saw closing in April, it is being entirely replaced by a much more expensive wave that will hit the closed records in May.
Yep.
But what really stops me in my tracks is the active listings data. These are the homes currently sitting available for a buyer to tour today.
The one's just sitting there.
Yeah. There are only 10 properties in this data set. They have a massive median price of $1,914,500. They have an average days on market of 22.
Yeah.
There's even a property out there listed at $5.5 million.
It's a different world.
So what does this all mean? Looking at the active listings feels like showing up late to a restaurant where the only things left on the menu are the market price lobster and the beluga caviar.
The steakhouse analogy is highly accurate. It tells us that the entry point for the typical buyer is heavily guarded.
Yeah.
The pending median of $1.2 million reveals the current true sweet spot for Duxbury. Those are the properties buyers are aggressively fighting over.
The A students and B students.
Right. But the homes currently sitting active, gathering dust for 22 days, are heavily skewed toward the luxury market, nearing that $2 million mark.
I'm struggling to reconcile that, though. If there was virtually zero inventory, why are buyers letting these $2 million homes sit for almost 4 times longer than the median average? Are there just no wealthy buyers right now?
This raises an important question. It's not a lack of wealthy buyers. It's a shift in their psychology, combined with what we call the aspirational pricing trap by sellers.
Aspirational pricing.
Yes. When a market moves as fast as Duxbury is moving, seller confidence often transforms into hubris.
Oh, they get greedy.
Exactly. A seller watches their neighbor's turnkey capes sell for $1.2 million over a single weekend with waived inspections. They look at their own house, which might be larger but hasn't been updated since 2012,
Right.
and they think, well, my house is bigger, so I'll list it for $2 million. But the buyer pool at $2 million is a completely different animal.
How so? Like, what is the $2 million buyer demanding that the $1 million buyer isn't?
Perfection.
Just perfection.
At $2 million, especially with today's financing costs, a buyer's not purchasing a project, They are purchasing a seamless lifestyle.
You want the bags dropped at the door.
Exactly. If a seller lists a $1.5 million house for $2 million just to test the waters, today's luxury buyers are incredibly educated. They will spot the aspirational pricing instantly.
They know it's overpriced.
They see the dated kitchen cabinets, they calculate the effort required to modernize the space, and they simply walk away. They will let it sit for 22 days or 100 days until the seller drops the price to reflect reality.
Wow.
So you end up with this bizarre dynamic where the sub $1.5 million homes are evaporating into pending status instantly, while the ultra high-end aspirational inventory is clogging up the active pipeline.
That is such a critical distinction for a frustrated buyer listening right now. If you are looking for a home under $1.5 million, you cannot look at that active median of almost $2 million and throw your hands up in despair.
No, absolutely not.
That active number doesn't represent the homes that are selling. It represents the homes that are failing to sell.
Precisely. The homes you actually want are going from coming soon to pending before they ever have the chance to age into the active data pool.
They just flash by.
If you want to win in this market, you have to be intercepting the food before it even makes it onto the menu.
Intercepting the food before it hits the menu. That requires a really aggressive strategy.
Very aggressive.
It means your financing isn't just pre-approved, it is fully underwritten. It means you know exactly which compromises you could stomach, like taking on a higher HOA fee if it means less competition, and having an incredibly deep understanding of the hyperlocal geography.
Absolutely.
Because as we saw with Winslow Road versus Trout Farm Lane, Duxbury is not a monolith.
It absolutely is not. The microlocation within the zip code dictates the entire transaction.
And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive. We've explored the extreme speed of 6 days on market. We've decoded the pricing paradox of the inventory mix.
We covered a lot.
We did. We've seen the highly targeted frenzy where turnkey single families fly, but townhouses with heavy carrying costs sit. With inventory slowly creeping up, but homes still selling faster than ever.
Yeah.
Are we approaching a psychological tipping point in the South Shore?
That is the ultimate unknown for the second half of 2026.
Is there a breaking point where buyers will finally succumb to pure fatigue, where a family who has lost 5 bidding wars just throws their hands up and says, "We refuse to waive another inspection. We refuse to bid another $100,000 over asking. We're renting for another year"?
It happens.
Or will the upcoming summer months, traditionally the absolute prime time to sell in a coastal town like Duxbury, only dump more gasoline on this high-pressure market? Will the sheer emotional allure of Duxbury Beach keep the frenzy alive, completely overriding the math?
Historically, coastal markets demonstrate immense resilience during the summer months because the product is lifestyle-driven.
Right.
But buyer fatigue is a very real, very heavy psychological wall. It will be fascinating to watch which force ultimately wins out in the coming quarter.
It really will. And for you listening, navigating a real estate market that is moving at 6 days a transaction with pricing paradoxes and extreme inventory shortages requires significantly more than just doom scrolling through a real estate app on your couch. It requires a seasoned guide who knows the South Shore inside and out, someone who deeply understands the mechanisms of debt-to-income ratio, someone who knows why trout farms sit while Winslow fly, and someone who can help you intercept the right property before it becomes a statistic. If you have any questions about this episode, or if you are thinking about buying or selling a house anywhere on Boston's South Shore, from Southie to Sagamore, give Jim Aldred a call. He would love to speak with you. Jim believes that people in transition often feel anxious about buying or selling a home, and he provides them with the guidance and security to help your family move on smoothly. Thanks for listening, and catch you on the next episode of the Pink Door Podcast.